Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
And on the Power Pundit panel, Republicans will get their say with Attorney General Brian Sandoval,
State Senator Randolph Townsend,
and Chief of Staff for Senator John Ensign Scott Bensing.
And when we return, U.S. Senator Reid coming up next on a primetime edition of Nevada Newsmakers.
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years.
The Mitsubishi Marathon sale is on now. On all new 04 Mitsubishis, get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty, a 5-year, 50,000-mile bumper-to-bumper warranty, and a 3-year, 45,000-mile maintenance program. Plus, get a vacation for 4 and 200 gallons of gas for just 99 cents. It's the Mitsubishi Marathon sale, on now only at
Reno Mitsubishi, Steel City, USA.
This is a special edition of Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, political analyst Ande Engleman, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, here's Sam Shad and Ande Engleman.
And back on a primetime edition of Nevada Newsmakers, we welcome to the program United States Senator Reid, the Deputy Minority Leader. And this interview was recorded Wednesday, July 28th, in the middle of the day.
Senator, thank you so much for being with us. The Democratic Convention is billing itself as the fact that the Democrats will make for a stronger America. How will they make a stronger America from what we have today?
Well, what we have today are tuition costs that parents can't afford, gas people can't put in their car because it's too expensive, health care that's not available to most Americans, education K through 12 that is falling far behind, and we have an international situation that's disastrous. I think we can do better.
All of those things you just mentioned, Senator, are going to cost money. And with the gasoline situation, for example, how is anybody going to control that market?
Well, I think one thing we can do is make sure we do something with alternative energy and not be beholden to the big oil companies like the Bush-Cheney oil business. One reason we can't do alternative energy is they fight us every step of the way. And let's not talk about spending money. Last year, I was in Congress when the president got $69 billion earlier in the year, $87 billion later in the year. That's big dollars. We could do a lot for health care. Why should we be worried about building hospitals in Iraq when we can't build them here in America?
Well, I would have to agree with you on that, Senator. You know, we're not seeing very much vitriol at the convention so far. There was more excitement with Michael Moore being interviewed on Bill O'Reilly than we've seen at the convention. Why not more to be outspoken at the convention?
Sam, we believe in a positive statement to this country. The Bush campaign has spent $85 million trying to trash Senator Kennedy. We are not going to be a convention that's going to take our cards from the Bush administration. We're going to talk in a positive tone. We're going to criticize when necessary, but we are not going to be in a cheap gutter campaign. John Edwards believes in positive campaigning. John Kerry has campaigned positively. That's what our motto is in this campaign.
Senator, Vice President Cheney is coming to Reno this weekend. Do you think he's going to have good things to say about Senator Kerry?
I don't think, Senator, I don't think Vice President Cheney says nice things about too many people, so I don't think I would stand in line to wait for him to hear, boy, he's got me even tongue-tied here. I don't think Cheney's going to say anything nice about John Kerry.
Okay. How come John Kerry has not visited Northern Nevada yet?
Well, you know, he's talking about that. I talked to Max Cleland just a little while ago. Max is talking about coming to Reno. Senator Kerry, I met with Mary Beth Cahill this morning to talk to her about his next trip to Nevada. We think his next trip to Nevada is going to be to southern Nevada, but the next trip will be to Reno. We have about 98 days left. He's got time to come to Nevada. Nevada is a battleground state, but what's happened in this campaign is places where we did not expect John Kerry to do well, he's doing very well. For example, Ohio, it wasn't even a state that we were going to campaign in. He's almost 10 points ahead in Ohio. So we're doing well. Nevada's still a battleground state, and those delegates, as they were so important last time, will be important this time. And with what President Bush has done to the state of Nevada on nuclear waste, John Kerry will undo, because he stated, if I'm elected president, there will be no Yucca Mountain.
Well, but we know that there's been a problem as far as his first votes, though, were to send nuclear waste here.
You've been listening to the Bush brain, Karl Rove, spin a little too much. They have to go back for 15, 18 years. Those votes, no one voted with Richard, Bryan, and I. That was not the same issues that we have had Nevada on the line. Whenever we have needed John Kerry, he has been there, without any question, without any equivocation. And this Karl Rove strategy to try to confuse issues should not confuse the American people. You should not have to go back 15 to 18 years when Senator Bryan and I were simply trying to make a statement for Nevada. That's what we were doing. We did that. No one voted with us. But when it came down to have enough votes, 34 votes is what we needed, to sustain a veto, on every occasion, John Kerry stepped up to the plate and hit a home run for us.
Senator Reid, I've been interviewing you for the past 14 years. I have never seen you as fired up as you are today.
Well, this convention is good. I'm so happy to be part of something that we're here talking about things that are positive in nature, not trying to denigrate other people. You know, I can remember when I started in this business as a young lieutenant governor's candidate. We looked for good things to say about me, not bad things to say about the other candidate. This makes me feel real good, because this reminds me of the old days.
Quickly, Senator, what does Senator Kerry need to do in his speech tomorrow night?
I think John Kerry has to be himself. He can't be anyone else. He's not going to be John Kerry. He's not going to be Bill Clinton. He's going to be John Kerry. And being John Kerry will project to the people of the state of Nevada that he is a hero in time of war and a very, very good statesman in our government.
It's going to be tough to top some of the other speeches that have been made at that convention. Does he have the ability to do that?
Well, he has the ability. The eyes of the world are going to be upon him. This election is not important only for the people of the state of Nevada, only for this country. This election is also important for the people of this world.
Senator Reid, thank you so much for being with us, and we'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this timeout.
Make your daily commute easy with breakfast or lunch at the Tamarack Junction. Enjoy daily specials, super fast service, and South Reno's freshest morning meals. Tamarack Junction, your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway.
The son of a butcher and a grocery clerk, John Mason learned that hard work matters. Today, because of that work ethic, John Mason's legal credentials are unmatched by any other Supreme Court candidate. Graduating from a premier law school, John Mason earned the same exceptional academic honor granted Watergate prosecutor Archibald Cox and U.S. Supreme Court Justices William Rehnquist, Sandra Day O'Connor, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. As an attorney, John Mason earned the highest rating, AV, for legal expertise and ethics. John Mason for Nevada Supreme Court.
When he was just a young boy, Ken Dillon laid back, looked up at the stars, and thought to himself, hey, this house could use a roof. Today, Ken Dillon's D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal offers a complete line of elk roofing products for any type of residential roof. With an elk roof from D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal, what's overhead stays overhead. Call Ken Dillon's D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal today for a free estimate. Yes, the technology sure has changed, but after all these years, Ken still enjoys playing with houses.
Make your daily commute easy with breakfast or lunch at the Tamarack Junction. Enjoy daily specials, super fast service, and South Reno's freshest morning meals. Tamarack Junction, your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers.
And on this special primetime edition of Nevada Newsmakers, we're joined by Mylan Hawkins, who is the vice chairman of the Women's Democratic Club. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for being here, Mylan. Did Senator Kerry do what he needed to do tonight?
I think he did. I think he gave a very strong, very articulate, very, very meaningful acceptance speech at this convention. I think he took the high ground. I think he pointed out graciously that we are a nation that cannot afford to be divided now, that we are a country of Americans, regardless of our race, our political parties, our creeds, or how we care to share our love in life. This is a nation that must come together, and I think he made the case, because the case is this: we are faced with crisis in the world around us. We have alienated ourselves from our allies and our friends, and if we don't come together as a nation now, as he spoke tonight, we are going to be in terrible, terrible trouble.
Okay, but the bottom line is, the Democrats who supported him to begin with loved this speech. It was everything that they hoped it would be. It said all the right things. But does it move one Republican to John Kerry's side? Does it move one independent to John Kerry's side?
Well, Sam, I can tell you of 10 Republicans who are my friends, who in the last months have changed their party. I don't know about independents signing up because they can vote, but I have 10 Republican friends that registered as Democrats.
Mylan, in this, though, they talk clearly about taxing those who earn $200,000 a year more than other people.
Look, when the majority of people in Washoe County have a mean income of $45,000 a year, they would be delighted to be at the $200,000 level. $200,000 and a little more taxes to put our children through school, to provide better health, to be sure that our streets are safe. You know what? That's not a bad deal.
But will it bring nonpartisans and Republicans over to vote for Senator Kerry?
Democracy costs money. And if we aren't a nation that can stand up and say, we can put a little bit more in the pot. You know, while we've been cutting our federal taxes, we've been raising our state and local taxes, because those federal dollars are no longer coming into Nevada. For every dollar we save in federal tax, we will pay 3 county and state taxes, or in city taxes. So one way or another, we as citizens will have to pay taxes to meet the needs of our people. Those are bogus arguments. Particularly if we want to have a strong military, how are we going to pay for it?
Let me ask you this. He talks about not rewarding companies for outsourcing jobs around the world. He talks about trying to bring manufacturing back to the United States. These are not realistic goals. If you talk to anybody in manufacturing, or you talk to any international company, they're going to tell you that the way to compete in the global economy is you've got to do that, and we need to retool our own industries.
I think, Sam, that there is a way that we can do that for certain industries to bring them back home. We are finding that some of our outsourcing is costing us money, and many companies are beginning to realize that it wasn't such a great idea to send certain types of jobs overseas. I would agree that we're not going to bring them all back home, but some of them need to come back home because we can do a better job here. We really can, and we know that.
Mylan, he also talks about that he will fight, excuse me, a smarter, more effective war on terror. Why should the public just accept that statement? Don't you think he's going to have to come up with a plan of some kind?
I think that if you go to johnkerry.org, which, as he said, he is the first person who has really been first president that's really been able to say that, you can see some of the specifics. This was a speech of acceptance. In such speeches, I have never heard of a president making his case, you know, line item by line item. But yes, we can fight a much smarter war against terrorism in this country. We have to. We have to create more people on the ground. If we don't do that, if we don't foster those kinds of concerns, we are going to lose the war on terrorism. We can't count just on little spy planes running around. We need people, and we need to have educated people involved in this war. And I think John Kerry, who has served in intelligence, who is a man who knows what it's like to have bullets whizzing around his head, has a really good handle on what it takes to do this war on terror.
The campaign has tried throughout this convention to strike a positive note. But the reality is that from his opening line in the speech tonight, John Kerry reporting for duty, the Democrats have actually been slamming the Republicans and President Bush in every way possible. Do you think the public is smart enough to figure this out?
Sam, in politics, adversaries will go after each other. When I looked at factcheck.org today, for every negative Kerry ad, there are 5 negative Bush ads. So if we want to talk about who's taken the high ground, John Kerry and the Democratic Party have still taken a much higher ground. Yes, do we have differences with Republican policy? Absolutely. But this is America. This is how we have to do it, a little more civilly, please. And I think he did strike that note. If you've done something wrong, you've got to be able to admit it. I will say this. I heard John Kerry on many occasions say, you know, that was a wrong vote. I wish I hadn't done that. He's not afraid to admit that he's made a mistake. I also heard George Bush, when asked if he ever made a mistake, say, I can't think of one.
Mylan Hawkins, thank you so much for being here. We'll give the Republicans their chance to fight back on the pundit panel coming up in just a minute right here on Nevada Newsmakers.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seemed to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? Yeah, they do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
When smart business faces short-sighted laws that are bad for business, they don't waste time and money in court. They go to Kroll, your instrument for change at the legislative level. Thanks to the Kroll Group, a major beer company saw a 100% tax increase reduced to 75%. A large convenience chain saw its gross receipts tax converted to a more affordable payroll tax. The regional phone company was constrained from restricting local phone service providers from offering competitive solutions. The Kroll Group. Why fight the law when you can change the law?
The Mitsubishi Marathon sale is on now. On all new 04 Mitsubishis, get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty, a 5-year, 50,000-mile bumper-to-bumper warranty, and a 3-year, 45,000-mile maintenance program. Plus, get a vacation for 4 and 200 gallons of gas for just 99 cents. It's the Mitsubishi Marathon sale, on now only at
Reno Mitsubishi, Steel City, USA.
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years.
The name of the program is Chuck Weller and the Law.
You've heard him on the radio. You've read his Ask a Lawyer column in the Reno Gazette-Journal. This Georgetown Law School graduate has explained the law to our community for decades.
I'm Chuck Weller. I've handled hundreds of family law cases of every variety over the past 27 years. I know our family court. I want to make it work better for you, for our community, and for our children. I want to be your family court judge. I hope I can count on your support.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on this special primetime edition of Nevada Newsmakers, Andy and I are joined by our pundit panel who are foaming at the mouth here, ready to, foaming at the mouth? What the heck is that? Foaming at the mouth to get going here. State Senator Randolph Townsend joins us, Scott Bensing, who's Chief of Staff of Senator John Ensign, and Attorney General Brian Sandoval. Let's get your initial views, starting with you, Randolph, of what you thought of Kerry's speech.
Because he's also on the Truth Squad.
Thanks for having me on, the dinosaur with these two young guys. Yeah, I know you invited me because I actually worked as a janitor in 1964 in the Republican convention in San Francisco when Goldwater was nominated. So I have a little bit of a different view of how some of these conventions ought to go. I thought it was a wonderfully written speech by Bob Shrum. I thought it was adequately delivered by Senator Kerry. The one thing I do want to highlight, because I'm a positive guy, and I believe very strongly that the part that was in the speech about let's respect one another, President Bush, he addressed him specifically, was a very important part. The unfortunate part, and I hope the President does that, and I hope Senator Kerry does that, the unfortunate part is you have third-party money. And that's where all the negativism comes. It comes from both sides. It's something I think the public listens to but hates.
This is like those 527 campaigns, like MoveOn.org.
Exactly. And I think those two can raise the level if they decide to do that. But I'll tell you, that's hard to do when you're getting shot at from either side and these third-party people are coming at you. That's going to be the tough part.
And there's also another thing to factor in, which is now that John Kerry has been nominated, he has to take the federal money, so he only has $75 million to spend between now and Election Day.
Absolutely.
And the Republicans can spend whatever they want all the way through the Republican primary. Let's get
the other thing is that let's stop with the public money for these conventions. These aren't conventions anymore. You know who's going to get nominated. You know, the platform's all done. Let's stop with public money for conventions.
Okay, Scott, jump in here.
I'd like to get back to the speech.
Thank heaven.
I think the speech was very well delivered. I think one of the problems was he said, well, check my record. That supports what I believe in and where I'm going. And we did check his record. We checked his record to find out that he voted for the war, but he voted against the troops and the money to fund them and protective armor and things that they need to fight an effective war. We know he has voted for tax increases or against tax cuts over 350 times in his 20 years in the Senate. I think his whole throughout the whole speech, I heard 20 seconds where he talked about what he did in the United States Senate. His performance in Vietnam, while very admirable, and as a veteran, I truly respect what he accomplished there. We have 20 years of Senate service that he glossed over in 20 seconds.
But you know what, Scott? I remember talking to Barbara Vukanovich, who I respect tremendously, about a vote she took that was totally opposed to her normal positions on things. And I said to her, in private, I said, why did you do that? And she said, because there was so much that was good in the bill, I had to bite the bullet. At times you have to compromise. In a 20-year Senate career, that has to occur.
Well, we know that always goes on, Sam. You vote for or against a bill, not because of the title of the bill.
Yeah, but he's using it as a club, so I mean, I've got to throw that out there.
Well, I'm not using it as...
Brian, you're of the Bush-Cheney campaign here in Nevada. What did you think?
I expected more. You know, they said he had to hit a home run, and I don't know if he even got the ball out of the infield. I was expecting more than just broad statements. I wanted to hear some specifics. What's his vision? What is his plan for the United States?
When was the last time you heard a presidential nominee come up with specifics in a speech like this?
But that's what he had to do tonight. He had to do that. He has not done it for this year. And this was his chance, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, everybody was saying before this speech that this was his chance to bring nonpartisans to the table, bring them in to vote for him by coming up with some specifics and say exactly what it was he was going to do. Did this speech do that? I saw very little of substance in it.
Sam, there's an important point here. President Bush is going to have this opportunity, don't know whether he's going to do it. Senator Kerry had an opportunity, and he took it to say, I am going to immediately, when I become president, implement the 9/11 Commission report. First of all, if you read the 9/11 Commission report, the president can only do part of it. The Congress has to do some of it. Nobody has ever separated those two. So to be real, you have to say, I will do what the president's allowed to do, and I'm going to encourage Congress and put the weight and the bully pulpit in front of them as president to get them to do their part. That's what I think the Attorney General is talking about. Be specific. And I think the president's going to have to do that because he does have a vision. He believes in his direction. And he's in trouble. You know, when you look at the polls, by the way, there's about a 10% undecided. That doesn't mean independent voters. It means that both parties haven't gotten all of their people out yet. And that's where you're going to see a lot of money spent. It's a very, very exciting time. It's going to come down to the wire. And this is just the start of the campaign.
You know, one of the things that John Kerry had to do was be himself, because that's what people are going to identify with. Did he accomplish that tonight, Scott?
I'm not sure anybody knows what that means. I'm not sure there's something you can turn back to and say, well, this was John Kerry himself, this is John Kerry now. He's been on each side of so many issues, it's tough to get a good feel for what his vision is, what his character is, what he really believes. And I think that was one of the things I was hoping with some specifics and frankly some drawback to his experience in the Senate, things he's done of substance, to say this is what I believe and this is what I fought for. I didn't hear that.
But I think what he needed to do is the likability factor. We're talking about, will you go have a beer with this guy? Are any of you here, would you go have a beer with him?
Let me make a point. The answer to your question is a very simple one. If anyone saw President Clinton's speech, and I've followed all of his speeches, don't agree with many of his policies and some of his personal life issues, I thought that was the best speech President Clinton has ever given.
Absolutely.
Without question. And part of it, he was so deprecating in his humor, so deprecating, that you couldn't help but like the guy. The part that I missed here is as I said, as well written as it was, you got to be funny about yourself. And that was missing. I like, you know, I'm a guy losing my hair, I'm overweight, you know, I'm aging, and I'm a few other things. But, you know, that's life, and I deal with it. And
I hate it when he quotes you, Andy.
Yeah.
I think he threw that humor in there when he just started out with that, I'm John Kerry reporting for duty. I think that was as much as he was going to get. But, I mean, there were certain specifics in there. He wants to bring health care to the masses. He wants to bring up 40,000 extra troops to cover, not to send them off to foreign lands, but to cover the bases here in the United States. He wants to see inspections and of all the container ships coming into the country because he thinks that there are problems with security right here at home that we haven't taken care of yet. I mean, there were quite a few specifics.
Let's talk about health care specifically then, Sam. His health care plan is most conservative estimates, a $700 billion plan. He's not said how he's going to pay for it other than to start off by raising taxes, taking away dividends, tax cuts, capital gains tax cuts, marginal rates, which are exactly what has spurred our economy to be doing so well.
When we heard that we were going to give $67 billion for the war in Iraq and for Afghanistan, I got a hold of an economist at Wells Fargo to find out what does that mean in a $1 trillion economy, and they said not much. It's not a huge amount. So if you're talking $700 billion and that takes care of all of our health care problems in this country, then I don't think that that's such a bad investment.
Well, if you look at $700 billion to get us to the system similar to what Canada has, and if you interviewed people in Canada and interviewed people here and asked them who is the better health care system when those who can afford to come to the United States for care, I'm not sure we're getting our bang for our buck with that kind of government-run system.
People here want to buy their drugs in Canada.
And Kerry says that he will go forward to make that happen.
Well, and that's something we're debating right now in the U.S. Congress. I heard the senators talk about prescription drugs. We passed a prescription drug bill. You can, and people can continue to argue about.
You've got to come see my pharmacy bill.
Just a minute, Brian. We're almost out of time. You chair this committee. Tell me, is Bush going to take Nevada, or will Kerry take Nevada?
Bush is going to take Nevada, and I think Nevadans believe in him, and he's got a record of accomplishment. He's got courage, he has vision. Yucca Mountain's an issue, but we've agreed to disagree on that, and all the Nevadans are familiar with this position.
And if he loses Nevada, what will you do?
At this point in this campaign, we still have a long ways to go. They talk about the bounce that you get from a convention, but we've had so much money, about over $200 million spent already in this campaign just on advertising, that people are so polarized already that they're not saying there'll be much of a bounce. Do you see a bounce? How much of a bounce do you see for Senator Kerry in the next week?
I think you're going to see inside the margin of error, and I think the same will happen with the Republican convention. It'll just be inside the margin of error.
So this goes all the way down to the wire?
Absolutely.
No argument from the panel. My lord, we'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.